Um, my name's Caleb. I'm from Colchester, Montana, and my major is general studies.
My name is Hunter Azure, and I am from Spirit Lake Nation. And I'm majoring in my general.
Jit kutat kha warukhti neka tiwanahu tatri sah nishnasun. Hello, my name is Elijah Landon. I'm from MHA, and my major is general studies at the moment.
Jason Duffus from Cheyenne River, general studies.
Our topic is boarding schools, and our topic in question form is what was the historical purpose of Native American tribal boarding schools? We've got three key words. First one is historical, second one Native American, and third one is Indian boarding school.
Historical, or concerning history, concerning past events.
Native American, a member of any indigenous peoples of North, Central, and South America, especially those indigenous to what is now known as the continental U.S.
Indian boarding school purpose was to civilize Native American children and youth into Anglo-American culture, killing Native culture.
According to the article, Destroying a Culture, the U.S. government forced hundreds of thousands of Native children into boarding schools. The boarding schools would teach young Native Americans how to live in American society. Congress also passed the Dawes Act, which forced Native Americans to adopt non-Native customs, language, and clothing. President Grover Cleveland hoped the act would end the federal government's role of managing reservations and overseeing Native American welfare. While at these schools, teachers would punish children for speaking their native language or practicing Native traditions. Supporters of the school hoped that the children would forget their heritage and adopt American culture. The Institute for Government Research released a report about Native Americans called the Merriam Report. It exposed the poor quality of life on the reservations as well as the inhumane conditions at boarding schools. In June 1934, the impact of both the Merriam Report and the Great Depression resulted in the Indian Reorganization Act. The act granted rights to Native Americans, including control of their assets, which was mainly land, and the return to self-government at the tribal level. Many tribes created their own constitutions. In the first 20 years of the act, Native Americans reclaimed 2 million acres. Natives also no longer had to send their children away to boarding schools. The act was not perfect, however, it tried to address the injustices of the Dawes Act. It also laid the foundation for dialogue between the tribes and the U.S. government.
According to the article, Rapid City Indian School, there was discipline, violence, and punishment. The Native American children were disciplined with the military type of style discipline. Nothing so quickly erased the image of savage in the white mind as a haircut, a uniform, and the ability to stand at attention and march in step. White educators saw the powerful meaning in military drills, taking the Indian out of the children by trying to discipline them with cleanness, promptness, attention to details, obedience, and self-discipline. As a group of domestic science students, they learned the bounds of permissible behavior to the point that normal childhood activities became expressions of defiance. If children showed up early to class from recess, it was often the girls that showed up early to class, but the children were punished if they showed up early to class and not after the whistle. The children also had a time limit of 5 minutes to get to class. Most often, the children would think otherwise and go back to the dorms. Some of the boys also violated not going to religious activities during the evening. They would often be in the gym playing basketball. The staff of the boarding school would usually keep an employee in the gym after hours to see if the boys would sneak back into the gym after hours, in which they did not, because they knew how they would be punished.
Thank you.
Okay. My article starts off with an attention getter trying to relate going to POWs and more or less talking about being enriched in one's culture. Then it switches gear due to seeing religious signs around their reservation. According to National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition, there was 523 boarding schools operated at various times in the United States. And by 1926, there were nearly 61,000 Native children in the schools, which existed in 38 states and impacted Alaskan, Hawaiian, Indigenous peoples. In total, that is around 86% of all school-age children in the U.S. at that time. Going on like a personal note, not related to the article, but my grandma went to boarding school, and she still has a lot of those qualities of like fixing the bed and waking up at a certain time, going to church. It's really weird.
According to Activism and Acme, the historical purpose of boarding schools was to have Native Americans become part of society, to teach them how to read and write the English language and forget their own language. They took Native Americans away from their families and relocated them to a remote area to go to school under the Catholic Church's care. These places became known as boarding schools. They got the children's hair, adjusted them the same, and gave them white people's names rather than the traditional names. I would like to say it was a success, even though what happened to the children was very disturbing. Nowadays, there's a word they use for natives who live and fit in society, boarding school syndrome, meaning natives don't speak about what happened at the schools and only speak the English language, teach the textbook history of European ways and view on how America was discovered, but only for the sole purpose of not wanting confrontation or to relive the trauma caused by boarding schools. If you feel like you're wanting to be an activist in this day and era, you have to be ready for harsh criticism and hardly no acknowledgement. Do we read our I think the solution part?
Yeah, if you want to.
If we as natives wanted to reserve the teaching, or reverse the teachings of boarding schools, the entire race would have to reteach the language and be strict on us using the language. Also, we would have to get off reservations to allow yourself to be more educated and open-minded. Eventually, have someone advocate for us to incorporate Native culture into everyday life of all races in the U.S.
Thank you. Okay, so as we go through each of the speakers, I'll start with Hunter's. He talked about teachings and traditions, and if you hear these ideas, you can also use these for speeches to inform for topics and speeches to persuade. So this isn't a one-shot deal, folks. Many times the group discussion issues become future speeches. He talks about heritage and interesting historical perspective with the mention of Grover Cleveland and the Dirty 30s and how self-government began, land, and the 2 million acres. So it's like there's an empowerment, getting your land back. Well, not all of it, but some of it. And so when you think of boarding schools plus that, and then Caleb started talking about discipline, the Rapid City, South Dakota location, and how violence breeded defiance. And the word defiance is a really good word. And then Elijah talked about Healing Coalition and the numbers, and also by 1926 there were 61,000 students in these boarding schools. He mentioned his grandma. There was also mention of the Dawes Act, which most of you should have probably heard about by now, but you will at a tribal college. And then Jason talked about language and families and the syndromes, and how to reverse the damage, how, what to be done. So it's a big topic. So anyone in the audience have a question for any of the speakers? Well, no Q&As from over there? Did any of their comments ring a bell or? Okay. How hard was the article to read, Hunter, on a scale of 1 to 10? Was it hard? Was it pretty easy? How about yours, Cole?
I just went to a chapter, picked up.
Of a book?
Yeah.
Was it difficult reading? What would you give it out of 10?
7.
A 7? Elijah, how difficult was your article?
Well, it was an easy read, but thinking about it, it's kind of off-putting that these kids had to go through stuff like that. I always think that's like traumatizing.
Yes,
Which
yes.
it makes sense why it's like a whole era of like our historical traumas, boarding schools.
And by studying it, you relive it, you know, the presentations at the summit that, you know, this was their topic, you know, and they do this for a living. They present this topic to various audiences, so. But you found it to be an easy read. I really didn't hear too many mispronunciations of words. So when I hear students say words they can't say or pronounce, then they're probably reading something too difficult. So Jason, how about the difficulty for your reading? Not difficult to read?
To read, no.
Okay, understandable.
Right.
Yeah, and so you all know how to go into databases now to collect information. And please know that once you select your speech to inform topic, that it can come from ideas from these groups and from what people have brought to your attention. So, okay, thank you.